Last but definitely not least, what does Fannie Mae require in regards to management of vendors and other third-party service providers? Fannie Mae requires and states that they require this in their seller and servicer guides, that lenders must have written procedures for the approval and management of vendors and other third-party service providers. And that it is critical that third-party relationships are managed in accordance with internal policies related to strategic, reputational, operational, transactional, credit, and management compliance risks. In its recently released list of seller servicer risk self-assessments, Fannie Mae even reminds sellers and servicers that they remain fully responsible to Fannie Mae for functions that are outsourced to third parties. A seller must have effective written policies and procedures for approval and management of third-party originators and must satisfy itself that all TPOs produce quality loans. There are approximately 13 required items Fannie Mae includes for vendor oversight just for TPOs, such as developing approval process and controls for TPOs like mortgage brokers and correspondents, including reviews of recent financial statements, current licenses, receiving resumes of principal officers, conducting annual reviews of TPO's financial statements, ensuring post-closing quality control process of TPOs. Review cycles must be structured to ensure that transactions originated by each TPO are reviewed at least once annually. Fannie Mae also stresses the importance of complete vendor oversight in 3 required items: processes and procedures for the approval of vendors and other third-party service providers, and this for all vendors across the board, especially for those high-risk vendors. You have to show processes and procedures for the management of vendors and other third-party service providers. So you got to show that you have procedures in place for getting new vendors approved that are going to be working on Fannie Mae files, and procedures in place for your continual management of those vendors. So you need to seek reputable vendors. Ensure all your vendors have the appropriate IT security implementations in place. Ask your vendors the necessary questions and request evidence to determine how robust their IT security is. Have in place a vendor self-assessment checklist that includes the following processes and procedures for the approval of vendors and other third-party service providers. Processes and procedures for management of vendors and other third-party service providers include a process to determine the potential risks using the third party, a process for selecting and approving third parties, pre-contract due diligence, a process to monitor the performance and termination, if needed, of a third party, a process for completing an annual review of a third party, approval and oversight procedures to ensure requirements are in alignment with business needs and risk management standards. They require a centralized operating model for third-party oversight and internal staff with the expertise to perform oversight over these vendors. A third-party risk scorecard is also required, and that scorecard should include strategic risk components, reputational risk components, third-party relationship that results in dissatisfied customers. You need to show that there's a component for that. Operational risk components, transactional risk components, credit risk of the third-party component, and last but not least, compliant risk from violation of laws, rules, or regulations for the vendor. Common findings that Fannie Mae has cited during audit reviews are that the seller servicer does not have a comprehensive written procedure for third-party management, that the seller servicer does not properly monitor its third-party relationship, that the seller servicer does not have a process in place to confirm that vendors' activities related to origination of loans delivered to Fannie Mae does not appear on FHFA's suspended counterparty program list.